Welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast, episode number 2. I'm Mike.
This is Russell.
And we have a ton to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about is Alone.
Alone is an event that Mike and I both attended a couple of weeks ago. This is a 4-part series of shows under the banner Unweave the Rainbow. And this particular show was titled Reflection. Each of the shows have had a title reflective of some property of light.
The emails building up to this were really interesting. They said to prepare for at least a 3-hour journey, or up to a 3-hour journey, I'm sorry.
The show itself actually started off rather interestingly with a very small haunt-like show in a church in downtown Los Angeles, and then you basically had to solve a puzzle or two, which led you to a couple of nearby locations. You had a couple of interesting scenes with people, and then you moved to another location and you ended up going through another almost haunt-like scenario. That sounds very basic and very simple. The nice thing about this particular show, and out of the 3 so far of the 4, this by far was the most successful for me personally. The puzzles were not extremely difficult, which they have had a problem with in the past, I believe, of people just basically wanting to give up because it was too difficult. And I'm someone who's willing to try for a show.
Yeah, me too.
But under the pressure of actually being inside the show and then being given a series of puzzles and tasks to figure out, sometimes that actually leads to more frustration for me personally, because I'm also feeling the pressure of the show itself.
Right.
And I don't know what's coming next. However, in this one, the thing that struck me about the scenes is each of them really touched on almost philosophical topics. We were involved in one conversation where a woman was basically challenging us, saying, why are we not taking more risks, or what is the riskiest thing we have ever done, and how we were comfortable or not comfortable with taking risks in our own lives.
Wait, you mean she was part of the show?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Sorry to disappoint you.
I thought I was getting hit on by a cute girl. Dang
no.
it.
So,
no, but that's what's great about Alone. You never know what's real and what's not. They mix real world situations with what they're doing, and it's the line is very, very blinding. You can't really tell. There was a couple times going through the clues, going to the next location, when someone would stop me and ask me what was going on, because I had may or may not have had something on my face, which is very characteristic of Alone and doing that to you, which is great. But someone in a car stopped me and asked me what's going on, why do people have stuff on their face? And I started explaining to him what was going on, and then at the end of that conversation, he told me to make sure to turn left at the street I was told to turn left at, which was great. It took me completely by surprise. And here I am thinking I'm just having a casual conversation with a stranger who's just really inquisitive, when it turns out he's a plant and making sure I'm on the right track. Like, stuff like that is just awesome.
Yeah, that same scene for me played out, I guess in a similar fashion, but the way it ended for me was he asked me, I had basically said that I was part of an event with several other people, and he said, well, do you know what your final goal is? And I said, actually, I don't know what the final destination might be yet. And then he looked at me and he smiled and said, well, go down to the corner and turn left. And that's when I realized it was actually a part of the show. Overall, I thought it was very successful. My only issue was some of those encounters for me, I thought were very bland. And I thought they had missed a couple of opportunities when they had actually several opportunities, basically 3 that I can think of, when that could have happened to another degree. And instead, literally, I just walked up to somebody and they went, oh, yeah, go down there. Keep walking.
Right, and I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I think those people are needed, especially if some people that are not kind of nerds like us when it comes to puzzles and games. And what you had just mentioned, the people that just get frustrated and give up, I think those people are needed just to, like, no, don't give up. Just do this. Go here.
Yeah, sometimes I need those people. But I will, yes, absolutely, I agree with you. I think they are needed, but I wished that they had been more of a character rather than just a person standing on a street corner wearing a hoodie, looking creepy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but overall, really enjoyed the show.
Another cool thing about this show is they gave you a soundtrack to use on your journey. and there were, I believe, 8 tracks, and some of the tracks were instrumentals, and some of them they had actual instructions on them. For example, the scene that we had just mentioned, we were told to listen to a track, and we were listening to that track while we walked by that guy, and before we got to that guy, it said, turn at left or turn right or go to this street, go to this stoplight, things like that. So it was really a cool added feature. And there was one scene where we're walking through a tunnel and the music just got so dark, and it added so much to walking through that tunnel, which was maybe like a half mile or so. For most people, walking about a half mile maybe be like 10 minutes or so, maybe a little less. But when you're listening to music that's just, it's like droning and in your ear, it just adds so much to the elements. It feels like you're in a movie hearing the background music, and that is just awesome to me. So good job, Alone, and please do things like this in the future.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I intersected one of the characters before the instructions played on the track, and the actor had given me instructions before the instructions on the track came up, so I got double the instructions. So it was a little confusing, a little clunky, but immediately following that, I wound up in the tunnel scene that Mike just described, which was one of my favorite parts of the show, simply because it did make you feel like you had your own soundtrack to your own scene in your own show, which is exactly, I'm sure, what they intended, and it became a very tense moment for me. And I really, really enjoyed that, and the fact that it made me feel more vulnerable, and it made me feel more confused and out of place by walking alone in downtown Los Angeles. And the reason I wanted to state that is because one of my criticisms of Alone in the past has been lack of emotional impact. This had that. That moment walking through that tunnel, I felt so excited because I was feeling, it was changing what I was going through, it was changing how I was feeling, I was becoming more vulnerable, and then you immediately encounter a rather aggressive character after that. That scene was more intense because of the lead up with the soundtrack. It was a really, really nice achievement on their part.
Right. And speaking of that character, this was probably one of my favorite parts. And this is advice to anybody that goes to haunts and really gets interacted with but doesn't know what to say. Use the name of the haunt or the event that you're in, and it's awesome. So the character that Russell just described, he when he came up to me, he was asking me, he did one of those up and down with your hand things, saying like, what is this about? And so I was wearing some horror movie t-shirt, and I was like, oh, it's a horror movie. Like, no, what is this about? What is this? And like, it's a t-shirt. And he asked me again, like, what? No, what is this? And I said, it's reflection. And his eyes lit up and got so excited and shook my hand. And it was such a great moment because, it's like, I don't know what else what would have happened if I kept trying to just like be literal with it. And it's like, oh, this is a t-shirt, these are pants, but like the fact that he played into it because that was the name of the show was just awesome. And it, like, we both had huge smiles on our faces, and that was just perfect for me. So there's only one final index left in this series, and that's the Index of Absorption. And that starts October 16th. That's their grand opening, but I believe that's invite only. So tickets go on sale now, and the actual show for the public starts on October 17th. So you should definitely check it out if you can. This is going to be an October one, so that means it's going to be the Halloween one. So I'm hoping this is going to be a bit more dark and spooky. It's definitely one not to miss. If you have a chance, definitely check them out. You won't regret it.
The only other thing I'd like to add about Alone is I really did feel that the final haunt sequence in the Reflection show we just did was really, really nice. It was very surreal in places. I thought they did a really nice job. And the ending of it left me with this very odd, sad, but joyful feeling.
Yes.
At the very end, there's a very final moment when you're basically escorted out of the event. And I had just had this really lovely, intimate moment with a couple that embraced me and thanked me, and they gave me a little cookie treat, and which sounds silly, but it worked in the context of the show. And then the last thing they did is they invited me to interact with the next patron as they were about to be let go out of the show. So it became a really nice gesture of you're alone and you're going through this alone, but we are all connected somehow.
Right.
And I really did leave with this very odd mixture of happy and sadness and gratefulness for the show, which is, I think, their best achievement so far this year and definitely part of this series.
Right. And although I do call this a haunt, maybe that's not the right term for it, but, when you leave a haunt and you go, aw, that's what it left me with after exactly what Russell described. There was an embrace at the end that came out of nowhere, and there was a big thank you, and I just left going, oh man, I'm not going to see you guys for a while. And it connected with me, and it messed with my emotions a little bit.
It was touching.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Next up on our list, we did an escape room recently, which we definitely want to recommend to people. Room Escape Live is a room escape here in Los Angeles that offers 2 scenarios right now. One is a Cold War bunker, and the other is a central bank. You basically are running around in the dark trying to break into a bank vault as part of the story. And this absolutely, for me, was one of the most enjoyable escape rooms that I have done yet. It was a lot of fun. It was extremely challenging for us. But there's some twists that they do here at this company, which I think, as escape room people, all of us in the group, there were 5 of us, we've done multiple escape rooms, and we all reacted well to the lead up and some of the rules that they have, and really had a great time with this.
Oh yeah, and that's what I really liked about this one. There was a couple things that they did a little bit differently. For example, most escape rooms, you have to escape. The goal is to escape the room. Well, in this one, the goal was to break into the vault and then break into the case that held the diamonds. You didn't have to escape. You had to steal the diamonds. Another thing that was very, very different is all the lights were out. Yes, it was dark. They give you flashlights, and that's how you have to work, because you're basically thieves breaking into this bank at night. And so I guess that's as real life as you can get if you were a thief. If there's any thieves, please comment and let us know if that's true. But it was just great. They gave us flashlights. We had to go around, and it's hard to see. And the clues were some of them were tough. But luckily, they have another cool thing where they offer you a hint every 10 minutes.
So basically what Mike is saying, in other escape rooms, you can ask for hints if you're having problems. The difference with this, which we all reacted to when it was explained to us before going into the room, is yes, you can ask for a hint, but you're not allowed to ask for another hint until 10 minutes passes. So you have to be very judicious on when you ask for a hint. And we had a rough start to this room.
Oh, yeah.
We literally, I don't know how long it was, it felt 10 to 15 minutes where we were wandering around. We had discovered a couple of small clues, and we just couldn't figure out how to move forward, and nothing was making sense to us. And finally, when we asked for our first clue, you actually could hear sort of a chuckle in the woman's voice who gave us the hint, because she said, all right, look, every one of you has literally stopped and looked at what you need, and you're just not figuring it out. Go back and look at, and she gave us exactly what we were supposed to look at, and then we were able to figure it out. But here's the thing that struck me, is that all of us who are experienced in doing escape rooms, and all of us who seem to enjoy puzzles and riddles and stuff, the way I looked at it is, it seemed like an environmental thing. It seemed like background noise, it seemed like something hanging on the wall, and it seemed like decoration and an environmental thing, when actually it was the clue staring us right in the face.
Right.
And I loved the fact that when I finally figured out, it's like, oh my gosh, like how simple of us to miss something, just to dismiss it because we thought it was part of the environment rather than actually being very significant.
And that's one thing that I really enjoy about escape rooms, because just when you think you've seen it all, there's always going to be something new and something clever that you don't think about. For exactly what Russell said, we've done quite a few escape rooms, and at this point we figure out, we think, oh, we know what's a clue, what's not a clue, and then here's something brand new. There's actually 2 things in this room that we're just like, oh my god, really? We would have never gotten that. And I think you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all, because there's so many rooms come popping up, they always have to one up and, like, get to the next level, with, especially with their clues. And this one, they did it. Like, there were some clues that were just, wow, good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, really, I had so much fun in this one. And once we got rolling, the clues were extremely, how do I put this? They affected one another. You found something in one room that affected something in another room. You found half of a clue in one room, and then you had to go search something else and solve something else before you got the other half of the clue. It was really interesting, very intricate. Some of it was actually very difficult. There was one particular task involving a padlock that was really physically odd
Oh, yeah.
and difficult to do. And at first we realized we thought we had it, and then we realized that we were actually doing it backwards, basically, and we had to redo it, which we lost some time. I will say, much to our happiness, we did get out of this room
With 4 seconds left on the clock.
which was amazing. Even the staff came in and with a big smile on their face going, that's one of the closest we've ever had.
Yeah. When we got to the last part of the puzzle, and I actually looked at the clock and I saw that there was maybe only like 30 seconds left. So that just adds to everything. And so we got to the last puzzle, we found out what we needed to do, we found the code, entered it, and we were able to open it. And then I looked outside, 4 seconds, and it was awesome. We were so excited. This was definitely one of the funnest ones we've done. And, it adds so much when you actually get to conquer the room and you win. And this one was great. We definitely recommend it. One of the things I will say, if you do choose to go to this room, the parking situation is rough. This is deep on Sunset Boulevard, near where the House of Blues used to be. So if any of you go there or used to go there, you know how parking is. There's lots of lots. There's metered parking, but it's kind of a nightmare if you go. So if you do go, plan a little bit of time in advance to search out for parking, if you don't want to pay $10. Sometimes walking is a little bit better than paying, but I'm cheap. What can I say? So if you're interested in checking out the Room Escape, you can go to their website at losangeles.roomescapelive.com. Right now they have 2 rooms, like Russell mentioned, the Central Bank and the Cold War Bunker. The Cold War Bunker is a little bit easier. The success rate of escaping is higher. But if you want fun and to do this in the dark, definitely try the Central Bank.
All right, moving on. Something else that we have also done recently is Mike and I went to a play.
It's a new play. You might not have ever heard of it, but it's called Dracula. You can't really experience October or Halloween without mentioning or seeing, or at least somehow channeling Dracula, whether it be biting someone's neck or having fangs or anything like that. They just go together. We went up to North Hollywood for Theater 68's production of Dracula.
One of the things I found really interesting is something that has been present in other interpretations of Dracula. This version really stressed the social and political situation of women during the time period. Several times during the show, there were commentaries or comments from the women about being dismissed because they're a woman, or their station because they're a woman. One of the characters had a mother who was trying to orchestrate the marriage because she needed to marry above her status, which I found really interesting and kind of refreshing, the fact that they were actually making all of this social, political commentary about women's places and how they may have changed in modern times through an interpretation of Dracula. That was something that really, really I enjoyed thoroughly and thought was very interesting about this particular interpretation.
Yeah, and you can tell that Russell is a theater nerd at heart, because to me, I didn't even pick up on that. I just wanted to see people getting bit, people getting eaten and murdered, and that's one of the big differences. We both like it, but for different reasons. And I mean, maybe that's why we get along so well. I don't know. But if you're like me, you'll like this play. Like I enjoyed it. It, like I said, it's Dracula. You can't go wrong with anything that people do with Dracula.
And people were bit and people were murdered.
Exactly.
Live on stage.
And there may or may not have been blood. So add that to the arsenal, and that it's just a win all around.
The biggest compliment I can give this production of Dracula is at one point during the show, near the end, when lots of mayhem is going on, lots of chaos is breaking out. I actually thought, I wish they had a bigger stage to play on. I really thought that this company could have done more with it if they'd had a bigger venue. It's a small, intimate theater in North Hollywood, and the play is very enjoyable. But I mean this as a compliment that near the end of the show, I wanted them to be bigger, and I wanted them to have the opportunity to be bigger. And that's a compliment to this company.
Oh, yeah, that final act when there was some scuffling going on and other things, like, you know, they were right in our face. We sat in the front row, and just the things that were happening, it was, whoa, like, oh my God, is he okay? You know, and so I agree with what Russell said. If there was a bigger spot or a bigger place for this, I bet there could have been so many other things. Another cool thing about this is there were some really cool stage tricks going on. Like there were people levitating, you know, like just little things like that. The use of dark and the use of candles, fake candles, LED candles. Don't worry. Fire Marshal, if you're listening to this, don't worry. But just the things like that, like little nuances that just add so much to it. And those things make it for me. Yeah, I definitely recommend this one.
As a theater nerd, I have to point out something, which I'm actually not going to say what they did, but the way they show the passage of time in this show is literally one of the simplest things I've ever seen in a play. And when they started doing it, I literally laughed out loud because I thought it was so clever and fun. And all I'm going to say is they have some of the demonic succubus type characters running around, and they actually clock the passage of time in a way that I thought was very clever, very simple, very well done. The choreography was good. This is a really fun production.
Yeah, and you should check it out. It ends, I believe, November 1st. And it runs Thursday through Sundays, and it's in North Hollywood. And if you want to get tickets, go to theater68.com, and that's theater with the TRE. So it's THEATRE 68.com. Instead of the TER, which most people spell it. I was lucky enough to attend the fake premiere party of The Green Inferno. It was a blast. I had so much fun. There was a meet and greet with Eli Roth and some of the cast, and they signed posters and whatnot before the movie started, and it was a fun time. The movie itself, in my opinion, does not live up to the hype. I'm a horror nerd. I'm a gore nerd. Like, I love all of that stuff. I love just screwed up, messy, gory, bloody movies. I was expecting this to be like that. It seemed that Hostel had more gore than this, and yet the hype for Green Inferno was so much higher.
Did you enjoy the film?
I did enjoy it. I mean, it had a slow start, but there was a storyline. It made sense. You know, there wasn't gore for gore's sake, which was what I was expecting. The only really big scene of gore is the first scene where something happens after they get captured, and that was basically it. You know, it was really disappointing. I mean, it is a good movie. It's fun, and maybe for most people, that's enough gore for them. But for me, it was just, you could have done a little bit more. Where's the blood? And another thing that's weird is it's a movie about cannibals, and if you've seen any cannibal movies, there's their tribes, they don't have clothes, but it just seems so updated. This tribe, everyone was wearing clothes, and it just didn't have that vibe of the original cannibal movies. And I know it's not supposed to really, it's more of a tribute to them. But it's weird to see an updated version of those movies. And when you think of a cannibal movie, that's what you're expecting. You're expecting naked people in the jungle eating people. And you only got really half of that. But, it's a small nerdy thing to point out, but it is a fun movie, so I'll give it that. And it just took a while to get out, and it's pretty cool that it's an original horror movie that is getting out there instead of remake after remake after remake.
I have not had a chance to see it yet, and it is something that I want to go and support in a movie theater if at all possible, if I can fit it in my schedule, for that reason alone, just the fact that it's an original movie. And I've been wanting to see this for quite a while.
All right, we're going to bring down the house a little bit right now, and this is a public service announcement from Mike, and I just want to say, make sure that you let your friends know how much they mean to you, because they will always do things out of their way and comfort zone just to make you happy. And I just want to give a little story about what happened a couple weeks ago for my birthday.
Oh, brother.
No, this is amazing. And I'm lucky enough to have the most amazing people in my life. So for my birthday, they orchestrated basically an escape room and ghost hunt. I wasn't told anything. I was told this was going to be a surprise. You're going somewhere, and that's it. So Debbie and I made a trek to, I don't even know. We took the 5 North for what seemed a couple hours, and we got to this shady looking motel, and it was straight out of Psycho. It looked like the Bates Motel.
It actually seriously did look like the Bates Motel.
It was pretty awesome. And so we go and we check in, and she tells me, it's like, okay, well, we're here. We're going to rest for a while. Then we're going to go to dinner. And then after that, your birthday present. Like, okay, cool. So we go in the room. The room is ransacked, and there's bloody towels everywhere. It looked like Dexter was in there, like his kill room. The bathroom was all tarped up. There was blood everywhere, and there was a note on the bed. And I got in there, and I think I started crying on the inside just because of like the happiness level and like the thought that these people that know me so well went through to orchestrate this. And you know, the note basically said, find the clues, like here's a little backstory. And so I went around the room, I found keys, I unlocked handcuffs, and then I found another key to another hotel room. And I went to that key, I walk in the door, and there's someone with a hood chained to a chair, and I had to help him escape. So I got all the locks off and got everything, and I took the hood off. He had duct tape on his mouth, and it read "Happy Birthday," and that was Russell. And Debbie and Russell orchestrated this whole thing, and I love you guys, and that's all I gotta say. Like seriously, Debbie, I love you. Russell, I love you, and I couldn't have asked for anything more.
It was a very fun thing to do, believe me.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I never really gave either of them. I mean, I said thank you and how much it meant to me, but I never really got to talk about it in depth where they can actually know about how amazing it was and how amazing I felt. So seriously, it was awesome. And yeah, so I don't know. What was it like for you? Like, how did all of that work out for you, being the person that got chained to a chair by himself, by the way? And those chains were in a really good pattern. So I don't know if you want to list your secrets out or anything, but how did all of that come about?
We were talking about the trip, and I knew that the second half of this is that there was a sort of a ghost tour of a ghost town, and I knew that that was going to happen. And basically, as a joke, we were thinking about, it'd be really cool to decorate the room. Like, so you walk in and there's banners or happy birthday balloons or something like that. And that turned into, knowing Mike, like, we should be a little darker than that. And then it turned into a couple of other things. And originally, we didn't know how many people were going to be there, and other things got involved. But when it all shook out, it was literally going to be just a couple people going on this ghost tour. And with literally only a couple of days in advance, I just started thinking about something simple that I could stage, because I knew I was only going to have a couple of hours max at the hotel before anyone else showed up. So literally I was frantically taping plastic up in the bathroom and throwing fake blood around, and I had made fake bloody towels the night before, and
they were fake?
Yeah, sorry. But so it was really interesting. It was really fun for me, and it was a really unique idea, and it came together very, very fast with only a couple of days of preparation. So the storyline was a little bit convoluted that I wrote, but it basically, I just wanted to get you to find several things around the room, and I deliberately, I had some chains and padlocks, and I literally chained the nightstand of the hotel shut. And then at one point I wrapped something in a bloody present. I gave you a fake present to throw you off. So yeah, there was several things hidden around the room, but it was a lot of fun to do. because it made me think about something really different and very fun. And look, I have a creative job. My career is something creative and involving storytelling. So when this came about, I was like, oh, this could be really, really fun. And then I really got into it. And I literally finished, I think, with 15 minutes to spare.
Oh, wow.
Debbie had texted me, and I went, oh, crap. I don't know. I'm okay. Yes, fine. All right. I'm ready. And the last thing I realized is this literally looks like the Bates Motel. It is a single floor linear building, with all the rooms in a row. And I realized that I hadn't hidden my car, and Mike knows my car. So the last thing I did was I literally drove down a hill and hid my car somewhere and ran back to the hotel and went into my room and kind of got myself ready. And the basic storyline was that he had to go find, I called the character the messenger, I think, and that he had to go help the messenger and get the message. And the message was happy birthday, which I wrote on the tape that I'd placed over my mouth.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was one of the best birthday presents, I guess you could call it, that I've ever gotten. And just because you know how much thought and love and all of that mushy stuff went into it, it just made it that much more better. So seriously, thank you again, Debbie. Thank you, Russell.
Oh, that's very, very kind of you. And seriously, it was a great time. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough of the feels. So a couple weeks also.
Aww.
No. Okay. Anyways. So I went to Creature Features last week, and because they were having an art show based on one of my favorite movies ever, The Monster Squad. It was awesome. I took one of my friends who does a comics podcast called Sunspots Comics, and you should listen to it because if you're into comics, he's amazing. His podcasts give me so much information, and just because I've been out of the comic game a little bit, so he has pull lists every week, and he goes through each one and reviews everything, and he's starting to get a little bit into horror, which is good, so maybe one day we can have him on here. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Chris. But anyways, you should definitely check his site out, check his podcast out, sunspotscomics.com, and the podcast is called Sunspots Comics. Anyways, we both went because Monster Squad is one of him and his brother's favorite movies as well. And they had a bunch of different art, sculptures, paintings, prints on display. And they were all great. They're all inspired by the movie. It's at Creature Features in Burbank. Creature Features is across the street from Halloween Town, which is next to Bearded Lady Vintage, which is down the street from Dark Delicacies. So if you're into dark and spooky things, that's the place to be, because all of those places are right next to each other in walking distance, and it's a fun time to spend an afternoon.
Absolutely. I haven't been to Dark Delicacies in quite a while, and I need to go through because always during Halloween they have some specials. They have really interesting stuff going on during the Halloween season. I haven't been there in far too long.
One of the other things I did recently was Six Flags Fright Fest. One of the main reasons I wanted to go to Fright Fest is, one, I've never gone. So last year was my first year. And two was because of the makeup. The makeup was the main draw. It's something I do as a hobby, special effects, makeup, prosthetics, all of that fun stuff. And knowing that Mike Spatola, who does these amazing books called The Monstrous Makeup Manuals, those books are fantastic. That deserves a podcast of their own just because of how good they are. But I know he's one of the makeup artists at Fright Fest. So I definitely wanted to go see what he had. Unfortunately for me, the makeup was the best part of that. The mazes were very lackluster. The mazes were the same as last year, and actually they excluded one. And it's just, this is one of the reasons I don't go to those bigger haunts anymore. It just seemed every single scare was a jump scare. It was someone who looked like they were 18 or 19 going, "Raw!" And it's just not scary to me. And, like, I know they're not trying to scare me. They're trying to scare 12-year-old girls that are going. But at the same time, it's not even enjoyable anymore for me. And it's just a bum out because there's so much potential. And, some of the props and the effects were very, very cool. But I just wasn't scared. and it's a shame because I want to be. And I think that's why I started going to extreme haunts, just to try to get that feeling back. But in my personal opinion, Fright Fest, if you like haunted houses, is one to avoid, honestly. Once again, that's just my opinion. Russell hasn't gone. You haven't gone, right?
No, I haven't. I have not been able to fit it into my schedule, just simply because I have worked with haunts the last few years. My October fills up really, really quickly, and it's been hard to figure out a night to go. And I would like to go for the same reason. I know that the makeup there is supposedly some of the best in the area during the Halloween season, and I would like to go experience it. But I've also heard other people say very similar things that you just said.
Right. And I mean, if you think about it, the price of admission plus the price of the haunt. So I forget how much admission is. I think it's $59. Let's round that up to 60. The price to get into the mazes is $15. So that's $75. That's $75 that you could spend on probably 3 or 4 other haunts in LA that are going to be alone. They're going to give you attention. They're going to actually legit scare you because they don't have to cater to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. In your time slot, there may be 6 people, and each of you is probably going to go alone. So my advice, save your money, support the smaller haunts.
Haunts.
Yeah, home haunts too. But those are free. So most of them are free, but donation based. So you should go and give them a couple bucks as well. But there's just better ways to spend your time and money, in my opinion. I mean, unless you're going for the rides are always going to be cool. But if you're going to Six Flags just for the haunted houses, I say pass. And that's just my opinion. The last event that I've been to lately has been the Abracadabra Halloween Market. And what that basically is basically a swap meet of Halloween vendors. And it's a really fun time. It's in their parking lot, and you can get haunted bird houses that people make, prints, jewelry, bags, things like that. Sometimes they have haunted house representatives showing their haunts or promoting their haunts. And I was actually surprised that there wasn't a lot more of that, but I guess it's a double-edged sword. You would want to promote in October, but at the same time, you're probably crazy building everything. So this one had mostly home goods and things like that. The one standout of this event that for me was the Crossroads escape game booth. And they had a mini escape game at their booth, and it's just so much fun. We love escape rooms, obviously, and to have something there on the spot, it was awesome. There's a 5-minute time limit, and what happens is you have to find something, to find something else, to find something, to open something, to open something, and if you got everything done within the 5 minutes, they had a coupon for $10 off, which is fantastic, because saving money is a great thing, especially with everything that we do. So I'm proud to say that I did solve the puzzle. I escaped, and I was able to interview Maddie from Crossroads Escape Game. So here's a little interview we did in the parking lot. All right, this is Mike, and I'm at the Abracadabra swap meet, and I'm here with Maddie from Crossroads Escape Games. And I just did a mini puzzle at their booth, and it was fantastic. So I was wondering if Maddie's here. I was wondering if you could give us a little background of what you have in store for us.
Yeah, so we have kind of a new level of escape rooms. We're calling it an escape game because it's a bit more interactive. We have a special horror theme one opening up this October. We're shooting for October 15th. It's called the Hex Room, and the premise is there's this horror movie-loving madman, and he wants to recreate a horror film. So he's gathered his 6 favorite horror victim stereotypes. So before the game even starts, you and your group of friends are stereotyped. You have to take a little questionnaire, and we decide if you're the virgin, the jock, the nerd, the rebel, and then we place you in your own room by yourself. From there, you have to communicate with the rest of your team, because you want to escape as a group, and you have to slide clues and keys through mail slots in your door to communicate with the rest of your team while you're still trying to get information from them and getting yourself out of the room. So you have like an individual game going on and a group game all at the same time.
That sounds incredible. Where are you located, and when are you opening?
Opening October 15th, and we're going to be in Anaheim.
Awesome. And is there anything else that we should know?
just that we have a special twist to our game where you could also live and survive, just like in any horror film. You know, usually the virgin's the one that lives and the prom queen dies, but it's always a surprise too. So we have a side puzzle that you can do as your character that if you complete, you get an I survived medallion, and if you escape with that medallion, you're the one that lived, but your other players might not have enough time to complete this side puzzle too, in which case they would die. So it is a live or die situation.
That is great. And where can people find you? What's your website? What's your Facebook? Do you have Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, we have all those three, and our website is www.crossroadsescapegames.com.
Great. Thank you so much. So everyone listening, you should go check this out. I'm really excited for it. And that's it. So there you have it. There's some information. They're hopefully going to be opening on October 15th. They're in Anaheim, and they're starting off with one room. It's called the Hex Room, and you can check them out at crossroadsescapegames.com, and they're also on Twitter and Instagram. And so check them out. They're going to be a fun one. I'm so excited to try them when they open.
I also encountered them, and I did the same puzzle that Mike did at HorrorCon recently, and I agree. I am so looking forward to doing this.
Speaking of HorrorCon, we never really talked about it. I did not go, but you did. What were your thoughts on it?
I actually have mixed thoughts about it. It was nice to see so many vendors have the opportunity to present artwork and everything from jewelry and fashion, and there were some haunts represented. There were prop makers represented. Lots of posters were available for sale. It's wonderful to see any event where that is offered. Overall, I thought the event was a little disappointing. I heard several mixed reviews about it from people who were there. I did a Heretic mini haunt while I was there, which because it was at HorrorCon, the mini haunt for Heretic had to be very, very tame. So it was kind of odd, and I don't think a clear representation of their work. However, there were some very cool visuals inside that were effective, and it literally lasted less than 2 minutes. It was a very, very short thing that they staged. Other than that, it was basically a shopping bazaar. It was lots of vendors hawking their wares. So there didn't seem to be any panels. They did have some screening rooms. They did have some art gallery stuff on a lower floor. So there was some interesting stuff to see. But overall, kind of a lackluster event. I hope that they grow. I hope they expand to something other than a shopping center for horror-related stuff, which seems what this sort of turned into. There were also some signings and things like that going on as well. I like I said, I hope HorrorCon grows and grows into a bigger venue and grows into a bigger event, because I think it has the beginnings of something which has potential.
Awesome. So what you're saying is I didn't miss much by not going.
Yes.
Okay.
I am saying that.
All right. Well, hopefully next year they up the stakes and they make it bigger and better. So good luck to them. You mentioned Heretic, and they had a mini haunt. Speaking of Heretic, we have a fresh off the presses date change for Rituals 2 and Hex. Originally, it was supposed to be on October 28th, and that is being moved to October 27th. The time is 7 to 3 a.m. Woo, 3 a.m. I hope neither one of us gets one of those times. Tickets go on sale October 10th. And that's going to be at heretichorrorhouse.com. And you can follow them on Facebook as well, Heretic Haunted House. And if you are wondering what else is going on, if you had plans to visit Heretic on the 28th and you're wondering, hey, now that Heretic isn't going on, what else could I do on the 28th? You could check out the My Haunt Life calendar. And you can find that. The easy way is going to losangeleshauntcalendar.com or myhauntlife.com/calendar. And you'll see a bunch of events every day of October. Coming up this week, there's a bunch of things opening. The Mighty Evil Twin Studios Ward 13 is opening. And that is going to be awesome.
Full disclaimer, I actually work with Evil Twin Studios, so...
You do?
Yes, I do.
Weird. So that's opening. Sinister Points Trust Challenge is opening. Creep LA is going on. Drunken Devil opens. Along with the bigger ones like Los Angeles Haunted Hayride, Not Scary Farm, Fright Fest, all of that. Once again, you can find that information at losangeleshauntcalendar.com or myhauntlife.com/calendar. So that about does it for this podcast, episode number 2. I hope you enjoyed it. We have a ton of events coming up that we're going to this week, and we're really excited to be talking about them on the next time we do our podcast. In the meantime, if you'd like to follow us, I am at DJ Living Dead.
And I am at Scary Russ.
So that's Twitter and Instagram. Or if you'd like to read some of our reviews or just check out the site is myhauntlife.com. Until next time, I'm Mike.
I am Russell.
And thanks for listening. I'm overthinking it.
No, that's my job.
Too late.